Hi, everyone. Good evening once again. Welcome to our Monday evening special, where, as we say, this is indeed special because it's a special show being brought to you to deal with a special matter. And this evening, we have dubbed our show Taking the Dis Out of the Disability and instead focusing on the abilities. And this evening, we're going to be joined by two awesome guests, Mr. Wayne All, who is a behavioral technician and a special ed teacher. And I'm also going to be joined by Miss Camisha Morgan, and she is the parent of a special need child, especially autism, as we are focusing on this evening. April has been set aside as Autism Month. And autism is one of the disabilities that most people are aware of. So without further, ado and stretching this whole introduction out, I am going to be having Mr. Waynol join in the program. And then later on, as we go along, we will be adding Camisha to the program. So Violand, welcome Mr. Waynol. Hi,
Hi.
Wayne.
Hi.
How are you?
I am well, thank you. It's great to be here. Thank
Thank
you
you so
for
much
having
for
me,
joining
Marcia.
me. Right. I know you're not used to sitting in the seat you're now sitting to be asked questions, but then, I hope you understand when your student says that they are nervous, then I'm just giving you, as we say in Jamaica, a dose of your own medicine, right?
That's right.
Right.
So I'm here. I'm all yours, boy.
It's funny because you wear many hats. And as we go along, I am going to be looking at some of the hats that you wear. I think you're also an author. You are the operator, chief engineer, everything for the Wayne Orr Show. You
That's right.
are a special educator. So as I go along, I'll find out some of the other things that Wayne Orr does and who exactly is Wayne Orr. Our other guests will be joining us shortly, but I have a introductory piece here from you, and I'm going to be looking at a little bit of it
Okay.
because it's mind blowing
What?
with all the things that you have here. So I'll start out a little bit by telling our viewers out there, and
Yes.
before I do that, I just want to say to our viewers a very pleasant good evening. And once again, as I say each week, that this show would only be possible because of you. Without you joining in, tuning in, us being here, would just be useless because we would just be sharing information about ourselves, and nobody would be out there to interact or to listen to us, so we know we're actually reaching someone and doing something right. And so we ask you, if you're out there, the only way for us to know, because the only persons we can see are those of us who are in studio. So if you're watching us via Facebook or YouTube, we ask that you just give us a little thumb up, or you just interact with us by sending us a text. It comes right here to us in studio. We can read that. If you have a question, if you have anything, just shoot this to us. We will recognize you. If it's a question, we will answer it as best as possible for you. So please feel free to interact with us. We really need your interaction.
Awesome.
And so this says that Mr. Wayne All was born in Yorton, St. Catherine, Jamaica. Wayne All attended the famous Yorton Primary. I mean, if you're from anywhere in Linstead or around about the area, you know that Yorton Primary was the school of choice. Everybody wanted their child into the Yorton Primary School. Those days we had common entrance, right, Wayne?
Yes. Common
Yes.
entrance
Right.
days.
So he
Mhm.
attended the Yorton Primary School and the Charlemont High School. Wayne brings an interesting mix of experience and talent to radio and education. Wayne's radio career began with sports reporting while attending the GC Foster College of physical education and sport in 1990. In 1991, Wayne All was awarded the Caldon Finance Merchant Bank Teacher of the Year award in Jamaica. Wayne is a special education teacher with Gwinnett County Public School. He recently acquired a Master's of Art in Special Education with focus on autism spectrum disorder, ASD. Congratulations, Mr. All.
Thank you.
So, before I even go any further, are there any plans now that you have done the Master's to do that PhD?
My family's asking me for a break. I've been going at it for about 5 years in different areas. So
Mhm.
I'm happily enjoying my break. I will not predict whether or not there's I know what the options are, you're steering towards a PhD or maybe something behaviorally. I don't know yet, but
Okay,
for right
let's
now,
see.
I'm just enjoying a break from the
Okay,
studies.
so I'll give you a maximum of 2 years if you have not yet done that. But when the second year comes into play, then you got to jump back on board with whatever you're doing.
Okay.
So he has taught in the autism spectrum disorder environment for over 6 years. During this time, he has made communication with parents a major focus as he sees it as a great way for the home and school to complement each other in tackling autism. Wayne has been applauded by parents for his work with autistic children. He has recently been working as a registered behavioral technician via telehealth and in-person visit with individuals with autism. Wayne has been a valedictorian twice, first at his high school graduation and then at his college graduation. You want to tell me, say, yeah, bright boy, Wayne? he
I'm
is
listening. I'm listening to you reading that, and I'm wondering, really? Oh,
He
that was
is an
me. Oh
avid
my
sports
goodness.
fan and played for Galaxy Football Club in the National Soccer Premier League in Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
Wayne has a Bachelor's of Arts degree in business management from Monroe
Mm-hmm.
College in New Rochelle, New York, and spent several years in corporate America as a general manager, production and installation manager. At the end of 2011, the Atlanta Broadcast Institute graduate made a decision to pursue a lifelong passion for radio. He joined the Island Blend Radio team in 2012 and broadcasted the news and sports and also hosted the show as well. Wayne has a keen sense of humor and a great interviewing talent. Look like you're sitting on the wrong end of the chair tonight. He brings a
No,
unique
I
and
doubt.
charismatic style of presentation. He now hosts his own show, The Wayne O Show, on Wednesdays from 8 to 10 p.m. on www.thewayneoshow.com. All right, so I will continue with this prestigious presentation in a short while. But now we are being joined by our parent, Miss Camisha Morgan, and I'm just going to add her to the stream right now.
Okay.
Hi,
Ah,
Camisha. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You're most welcome. How do you do?
Not bad.
Okay, so Wayne, Camisha Wayne.
Wait,
hi,
next.
Camisha.
Hi.
Okay. So before I continue your highlights, Wayne, I will just introduce Camisha to everyone. And as a matter of fact, Camisha, your mic is off. Okay. So, Camisha, even before I introduce you, I want you to tell everyone just who you are and the reason why you are on this program this evening. I'm putting you on the spot because I want you to do your own icebreaker, right?
Can I say I hate that question in interviews? It's like it's the weird question you know about yourself, but it's so hard articulating it to someone else. But as you have already said, I'm a mother of a special needs child, and Yeah, what can I say? I my world is centered around being a mom. Um, I work in a financial institution, specifically in Jamaica right now. But I got to say my kids are the center of my world. And if I should say anything about myself, that is what I would want the world to remember.
Okay. So let me tell you all a little bit about this special lady. Who is Camisha Morgan? Camisha is a proud mom and a special mom indeed, who has an amazing professional career in financial services. No job or responsibility to date has and will ever be more precious to Camisha than that of being a mother. She is the mother of two awesomely amazing children, a 5-year-old son and an extraordinary 11-year-old daughter who so happens to be on the autism spectrum side. Having her first child on her 24th birthday, Kamisha had to quickly adapt to navigating and parenting in a special way as she navigates the artistic seas while encountering the challenges of this new world of parenthood. Over the past 11 years, there have been many challenges and new norms, all creating new means of ability to learn new and exciting things. She makes it her point of duty to volunteer to communities in whatever way she can. She believes awareness will help parents identify if a child may be on the spectrum and inform them of measures for early intervention that could make a world of difference for their child. Not one to flaunt her abilities or status, she has worked assiduously behind the scene and have donated both in time and finances to many children homes from Anisha's previous schools in Jamaica, especially the JD preschool in Pepin and the Disability Fair in Jamaica. She has also done many charitable work via her place of work at FGB. She was part of the Care Bear community, a charitable arm of the organization, who participated in reading for children and the rehabilitation of schools. She also assisted with the background work for Sigma, in particular the ones geared towards special education. Even though she is a shy person, she has decided to join us this evening. And this is just the tip of the iceberg of exactly who Camisha Morgan is. An extraordinary mother, daughter, friend indeed. And so, Wayne, when we talk about, because I'm going to be coming back to you and some of your highlights in a short while.
Sure.
But when we talk about disabilities, a lot of time people just focus on one thing. If you tell somebody about an autistic person, they understand that that person has a disability. But very few people understand that that disability also come with some very common everyday things that we see. And in Jamaica, we either look at it as a child being Downs or the child not, you know, giving problem or the child being a problem child, but we don't realize that a lot of these challenges can be lifelong and can be lasting. So our topic this evening is really taking the this out of this disability and focusing instead on abilities. Because no matter how we think that our children might have a disability, there are always ways and things that these children can actually teach us, right?
Right.
So when we look at, our special blessings, we say that there are innumerable types of disabilities that can affect the human being. Some of these conditions are more common than others. To our extraordinary parents, teachers, guardians, facility providers, I just want to say this evening a very special thank you for being that extra special person. Our children with special needs, our family with special needs just would not be the same without you. Most of the times you have been the guiding force. You have been the ones to, hold those parents on the shoulders, to really comfort them, to really assure them, to really let them know that it's not the end of the world, to really give them hope. Because I think that working with special ed children over the period of time, I find that the hardest thing a parent can do is acceptance. Acceptance is one of the last thing that most parents, are willing to really do. Now, Wayne, can you tell me exactly what is autism?
I'll give it my best shot. So, autism is a neurological disorder, really.
Mhm,
It impacts the nervous system, as it suggests, and
mhm,
the symptoms tend to vary widely, hence it's referred to as autism spectrum disorder. So it's
mhm,
a spectrum of different, um, conditions. However, it's basically difficulty with communication, challenged with social interactions, and also obsessive interests and repetitive behaviors.
mhm.
Yes. So that's it in a nutshell. Neurological disorder that affects communication, social interactions, and is marked by obsessive interests.
Okay. So when you say that it varies on the spectrum, is there a range of spectrum? Is there a range that we can look at? And if so, what are the differences between like type 1 and how does it range?
Well, for example, a child with autism can be categorized as a child with, um, say, a level one,
Mm-hmm,
or which is profound, severe,
mm-hmm,
level two, which is not as profound, not as severe,
mm-hmm.
and then you have mild and moderate impact, and then you have the higher functioning ones that sometimes it's only their social challenges that really make you realize that they are on the spectrum of autism.
So, question to you, Wayne. Does that mean that a child or a person with autism can function almost normally?
Yes, the whole challenge of
Mhm,
professionals in the field of autism is to bring that autistic child to function as independently and as normally as possible. Depending on the impact and scope of the disability, of the effect of autism, they surely can participate in a normal life as much as possible. It's the type of disability, the impact of it, that will determine their ability to participate in a normal life. So a child, for instance, who is higher functioning will probably have no problems reading, writing,
mhm.
understanding a conversation. However, you will find that they tend to want to just talk about certain subjects or one particular subject, hence the obsessive side of it. And they might not be very well socialized. They're not looking in your eyes. They're not wanting to have, much of an interaction.
To be
So, yeah,
touched. Some of them ate being touched and all of that. Now,
yes.
Camisha, how is your child placed on the spectrum? What level is she at?
Before I even touch on that topic, you mentioned something about acceptance with parents, and I got to tell you that that was very difficult for me as well. Because when you have a child, you get pregnant, have a child, you're thinking of all the possibilities and how to enjoy your life with them and so on. And then when you find out about autism, and then just the challenges that comes with it, um, I got to tell you, it was very, very tough. And for me specifically, I remember having my friend Tiffany. She actually mentioned some scripture to me, and she basically was saying that people go to Jesus and saying, why this person have this or that, and it was saying just to glorify God, and that was when my mind shifted. Because before that, it was very hard for me to accept that my child was on the spectrum. So, at that point in time, my prior change, I started asking for grace to go through it and just to put people and things in place to kind of help me navigate this sea. But it was so tough, I got to tell you. And my daughter, she was more on the severe end. When she was originally diagnosed, they actually stated that she was high functioning, but when we went to the United States to get her evaluated, that evaluation changed completely because that the original evaluation was done in Jamaica. I meant to take anything away from Jamaica, but we know about the challenges in terms of resources and so on. And that in the United States, we got a proper diagnosis for her, and then we started actually seeing the real challenge, that she was about to encounter in her life.
At what age was she diagnosed?
Funny enough, we went through, I would say, a tumultuous 6 months, because at around about 18 months, I found out that she was hearing impaired because we were playing before and she usually, peekaboo, she would turn around. But at one point in time, I realized that she stopped doing that. So I was like, wait, what is going on here? And I end up saying it in jest, like she's behaving feisty. And my aunt was like, and I said to my aunt, I wonder if she's not hearing. And my aunt is like, don't take it lightly, go and get it checked. So about 18 months, I recognized that she was hearing impaired. And about by the 2 years mark, I would have identified that Anisha is running to and fro as as I'd mentioned, they have some obsessive behavior. So her playing pattern was just the same every day, same routine, up and down the hallway. And at that time, I didn't know what actually named autism.
Right.
Is Google. I end up Googling, and if there were 10 things listed as things that you should look out for, she had 8 of them. Right. So at that point, I was like, oh no, what is this? And, and that is something that was lacking back then. Because at that point in time, I had no clue what was autism. I didn't know what next to do. I didn't know where to turn because, again, 6 months prior, she just got diagnosed with a hearing impairment. And then now this situation. So it wow. It was a very rough 6 months, to say the least. So even in terms of school placement and so on, that was difficult for me as well. I remember taking her, first she was at this nursery, but then I remember taking her to a preschool in Jamaica called Kids Palace, and that's where some of the, and they were very helpful. They weren't equipped for an autistic child. They were very helpful, and I had to do a lot of research, just to identify where to take her. And because she had an hearing impairment, I took her to the JAD preschool in Jamaica, which is the Jamaica Association for the Deaf Preschool. But then I had to do a lot of therapy. So I had to take her to MACAM, occupational therapy. I took all over the place, and I didn't have no sense of it was not smooth. It was not smooth. I didn't have readily available information. I didn't know what next to do. It was just me and Google. It's just me and a lot of Googling.
Is there a specific type of medication, Wayne and Camisha, that autistic children can be given? And if so, is it effective?
I'll try to answer that in terms of medication, not a doctor, but from experience, again, because of the different challenges that come with autism in terms of behavior and physical challenges as well, developmental challenges. There are a wide variety of medication that an autistic individual could end up being prescribed. And it all depends on what it is for. Some of the tendencies of autism tend to fall under ADHD. So you could see an autistic child getting ADHD medications,
Mm-hmm.
then there are those medications that treat other issues, like the OCD. There's challenge to sleep sometimes, so they'll get medication to try and help them sleep. To work on appetites, some kids will just go for a long time without any desire to eat, so
Mm-hmm.
they'll get stuff to help with appetite. So an autistic individual can get a variety of prescribed medication depending on what the impact of their disability is, and they do tend to help make it work. Sometimes you have to just work with it and test it and provide feedback. In my case,
Mm-hmm.
when a parent informs me that a child is taking a medication, I try to communicate daily how that child may have been impacted by the medication, not necessarily saying the medicine caused this, but just
Right.
by describing
But to
their
give
day.
a
And then
feedback to the
they'll know
parent.
right at home,
Right.
okay, we can increase the dosage or lessen the dosage or go
Mm-hmm.
see the doctor for a change to a different medication.
Right. Because what you said there, Wayne, is very important because what we have to realize is that most of the time, children are with caregivers for most of the daylight time. Most facilities are open sometimes between 7. Some children are there between 7 and 8 until maybe 5, 6 p.m. But let me just take a moment just to acknowledge some persons who are here with us and giving their comments and just to see what some of the comments are. I don't want to miss anything, so I'm going to be going to the top of the page. Andrew Brown McNeish. Good evening, Mr. Wayne L. All and Lady Marcia Harris. Good evening to you, Miss Brown.
Hi, Andrea.
And then we have Janice O'Shea, Attention on Autism. Good evening, host and guests. Hello, Andrea. Who is Andrea?
Hi, Andrea. Hi, Janice. Hmm.
Oh, those are your okay, not a problem. Tiffany Dunkley said good evening.
Hi,
And
Tiff. She's the person
Amanda.
who gave me the scripture. Can I tell you?
Okay,
Okay.
good. And
All
then,
Yeah.
right.
we need every person, in every situation in our lives, we need someone. We need a financial backer, we need a spiritual backer, we need an emotional backer. We just need a general backer. So we need in every area of our lives, it is good to have that support base. Because I recently went through a bout of sickness. And I tell somebody that when I went through or when you're going through, sometimes you can't find a prayer to pray because you become discouraged. So you need that person who is going to lift you
Right.
spiritually. And then maybe your finances might be going down. You need that person who's going to say, Marcia, I sent you $20. Right, Wayne? And then
Exactly.
you need that person who, when your spirit grows low, not only can they give you a spiritual word, but they can give you just a word, a general word. Because sometimes somebody just quotes some saying, even from the past, and that just cheer your spirit on. So we need every era of our lives. We need someone there. And
But
then Tiffany's there, Amanda is there, Andrea says, I lady Janice, and then Amanda is saying hello again, Wayne, and good evening, DJ QT. QT.
Cutie
Okay.
cutes. Hi.
Thank you so very much, all of you, for joining us. And we ask that you share this program as you go along. Send in your opinions. We value your opinions. Just, even just to give a shout out, just to wave something. Anne Marie Patterson said, good evening, everyone. Good evening,
hi,
Anne
Anne
Marie.
Marie.
Right. So, as we go along, Wayne, why did you become interested in special education, Wayne?
Okay. So, special education, the I was in corporate America, as my bio mentioned.
Profile says, right, which
Yes,
I'll get
for
back to.
for a long time, and
Mm-hmm.
then we had that big crash in the economy,
Mm-hmm.
and that coupled with some other developments on the personal side, I said, you know what, I really need to get back to what my foundation is,
Mm-hmm.
which is education. And so I decided to get back in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was making that decision, I decided to look into different areas of the education system here. And I started by being a substitute teacher, and I would go to as many schools. I went to all the different levels: elementary, middle, high. I subbed in gen ed classes, lower grades, and all the way up. And then I
Mm-hmm.
also took a look at special education classes.
Mm-hmm.
And there was something about the ASD level one class that I subbed in at the school I teach right now that I just could not let go of.
Mm-hmm.
The children and the staff and just the general environment that presented was just something I found very intriguing. And I said, you know what? I can do this. This is an area I'd really like to have a career in. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's how the decision was made. And I have not regretted it one bit.
Okay, because the funny thing is that I was going to ask you a salary of a teacher and a salary of a corporate American person. I think it's a
Yeah.
wide, gap. It's like the
Oh, I
mountain
can
and the
tell you that.
valley. So it must indeed be a special calling why you would have really remained in education, especially special education, wherein a lot of the students are not able to really communicate. They can't verbally communicate with you. But, I have a saying, and I always think that, grandma, being Jamaican, our grandparents used to say, if a man born to drown, him can't hang, and vice versa. It means that whatever our calling is, it's going to call back to us at some point in our lives. For me, I never thought of looking at education. I never thought of going into teaching.
Hmm.
So, like growing up, my grandmother would say, "So me teach your granddaughter here, you know." But I mean, and then when I came into money and into corporate world, I was like, I can't go into teaching. That ain't gonna give me, what I'm getting into corporate. And then I remember I actually got involved in education because a friend of mine had a daycare that was being closed. And she knows how much I always love kids. And just one day I said, I'd open a daycare. And so one day she just called me out of the clear blue sky and gave me the opportunity. The place is closing. Would you like it to rent? And the rest, they say, is history. That's how we actually started, my early childhood center, which was Kids Palace Early Childhood, which is how I actually met Camisha and her daughter. So it's funny because as I say, whatever you're called to do, you got to do it. So Camisha, with all that is being said about special education, looking at autism, what has the journey been like for you? I know you said that there have been challenges, but
Yeah.
tell me, what keeps you going every day?
Well, my why. That is the first thing that I have to keep in front of me. And for me personally, it's my support system.
Mm-hmm.
That if I did not have the support system that I have, I can tell you that I would not be here right now. My grandmother, my mother, my friends, my aunt, all of them have been so supportive to me. And the schools that Anisha got placed her in, and I use got placed her in because I remember when she relocated to America, she was attending this elementary school, and that was her first year. And by summer, a teacher just had my chance to see her and just say, just recommend another school for her, just by she
Yeah.
attended that summer school. And
Mm-hmm.
and that is when we witness some sort of improvement in Anisha's life. And that's why I said God placed her there, because it has not been easy, especially when she started school in Jamaica, just shifting her to the several institutions to get therapy here, education there, and so on. It has not been an easy road at all. And I won't try to pretty it up because it's not easy. I remember when
Mm-hmm.
Anisha was very young, persons usually say to me, "But you don't look autistic," and some of these comments, like, and it would tear you apart. because there are other instances where we'll be in public and she did a self-stimulate, which will flap her hands, or
Yeah.
she may behave in a manner, and people look at you like, why is she not disciplining her child and so on, and but they don't understand the challenge. But because you understand that, you just have to remind yourself of that. You're not going to treat your child any differently because somebody's looking on, and have their own opinion of it. But
What
you
has
can
been what has been the worst comment that somebody has ever said about your child without understanding what is happening to them?
To be honest, I think by Anisha reached probably 6 or so, I have totally blocked that out. I
But can you recall a worst comment
mostly if when
or
we're
a
in public,
situation that made you feel uncomfortable?
when we were at there was one instance in when we were traveling, because usually when we're traveling overseas, the the flight attendant seems in America or overseas totally seems to have a better sense of autism. And I remember in Jamaica, the flight attendant made a certain comment, and and I switched I haven't traveled that airline ever again. And that's why for me, and I'm not advertising JetBlue, but JetBlue for me actually, just was able to know that she's autistic. They're able to pick that up, and because of that, we would get like special treatment, traveling and so on. But I can tell you, we had an encounter in Jamaica with one of the flight attendants that really, if I wasn't a strong person, I believe I would have bawled at that airport at
Oh
that point in
no.
time. Yeah.
And if I may, that is where it is so important that awareness is out in the public at large about autism and any other disability, because it at the end of the day we're part of a community, and the
Right.
community has to learn how to accommodate those of us with different kind of needs. And
Yes.
we, for instance, I go to the classes that my students go in for the general education setting with a PowerPoint presentation every year, and teach those kids about autism in a way that they can understand and relate, and know that these individuals are in their own way very special, very talented. It's just a matter of a different form of expression, and you just need to know how to relate to them. And what we've seen over the years at Far Elementary, where I teach, is that by the time the students reach the fifth grade, they are so adept at understanding and relating to their special need friends that you don't even have to ask them sometimes to help, or to remind them how to react. They just fall right in line. So that is very important, Camisha. And I'm
Yeah.
sorry that you had to go through that, but that's the battle we all fight on behalf of our friends.
Yeah. And
You
that's
know,
the good thing about I'm sorry, that's the
go
good
ahead.
thing about the elementary that she's going right now, because they don't seclude them. They're very involved with all the other students.
Right.
And I think that is very important, because you have to remember social skills is one of the skills that is probably mainly affected by
Yes.
autistic
Right.
persons. So that, to me, that is very important for you to put them in that environment to help
Make them
foster.
feel as not
Yes.
set apart, but being a part of as much as
Yes.
possible. Now,
And then
when you
having
mention, go
and then
ahead,
having
please.
special teachers in their life, because I can tell you, when you have a teacher who's passionate, such as we, passionate about what they do, I'm telling you, it makes such a difference in your child's life versus somebody who's just showing up to get an income and so on.
And
It makes a difference, I can tell you, because we have seen it. We have seen one of Anisha teachers take like our nights just to develop programs just to enhance Anisha's skill set. And that obviously is a passion. That is not just for an income.
right. So we have been touching some very important points. But when you spoke earlier about like doing special PowerPoint presentation, how challenging is it? Because you have children on different levels, different spectra. How challenging is it for you to sit down and to create those lesson plans for maybe three, four different groups on a weekly basis?
Okay, so what I was referring to the PowerPoint earlier,
Mm-hmm.
this was for the general education students who
Mm-hmm.
are, atypical. They're fine, but they
Right.
need to understand about
What is
autism.
happening with
Right.
those
So
other
that's what I
children?
referred to. But in
Right.
terms of lesson planning for,
Mm-hmm.
say, my current class, for
Mm-hmm.
example,
Mm-hmm.
one of the interesting things, and this is where this word spectrum comes in again, is
Right.
you'll have all these kids are considered level one, but it
Mm-hmm.
could be for different challenges.
Challenges,
Yes.
right?
So you have, for instance, nonverbal friends,
Mm-hmm.
and as well as kids who are might be able to speak but will not initiate
Mm-hmm.
being vocal,
Right.
so you have different forms of challenges. And so
Mm-hmm.
writing a lesson plan, there's this very popular word in the teaching world called differentiation,
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where it comes in. You could teach the same lesson and modify it so that the child who
To
is
match to
most
match with
challenged cognitively can grasp
right.
it, and the child who is not so challenged cognitively will
Mm-hmm.
still find the lesson challenging by you modifying it up towards their level. And so
Right.
you still balance off what you're doing. You're just doing it to meet everybody at their level.
Right.
Yeah.
Um,
that's interesting.
how how
Because
important is it that even what you do into the classroom, that you assist the parents to continue that at home? How important is that the teacher, the school work in conjunction with the parents and vice versa?
Okay. That was for me.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Very important. Very, very important.
important, super.
Uh, the student will spend a lot of their time around the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is very important that the teacher is communicating with the parent. And it starts there. It starts
Mm-hmm.
with communication.
Mm-hmm.
I dedicate a major part of the final hour of my days to writing in a notebook that I send home every day with the child what their day was like. And I write, my parents will tell you, Mr. Wayne keeps it real. I write the great thing they did, I write the not so great thing, and I
Mm-hmm.
write the other stuff that mom or dad, parents might be asking about in their notes back to me every
Right.
morning.
Mm-hmm.
So by doing that, the parent is able to see and get a sense. And I always say, look, I am not complaining about my job. I
Mm-hmm.
am not having an issue with your child. This is just my way for a child who can't come home and articulate what their day was like.
Right.
This is my way of saying, this was your child's day. If you have questions from this, if there's further information you need, then let me know. And there's emails, and nowadays text messages too, and so on. So it's really is you, it really is about you as the teacher maintaining that level of communication and consistency with the parents so that they feel like you're doing it together, even though it might
Okay.
be two totally different roles.
So Camisha, how have you found working with, I know you spoke about, teachers developing certain plans and assisting you. How have you really been finding the unison in working with the teachers to the advancement of Anisha?
So we have a very excellent relationship because, as Wayne had pointed out, for Anisha, though it's called an IEP,
Mm-hmm.
individual educational plan.
Educational plan. Yes, IEP.
Right. So
Mm-hmm.
I am able to assist with the goals that I want Anisha to achieve for that school year. So I'm
Okay.
very integral in the process, and the teachers email me, they call me, they text me, and especially for children with autism, like Anisha, she thrive on routine. So it
Mm-hmm.
has to continue at home. So if a
Okay.
particular program is set at school, it has to continue at home for it to actually progress in that particular skill.
Okay.
Right.
So let me just acknowledge some other persons who have opted on. We have Anne Marie Patterson. I think I did mention her before. We have Better Adrian McBean. Hi, Camisha. We have Davis Richard. Hi,
Hi,
Camisha.
Adrian.
Oh boy,
Hi,
Camisha. I'm telling you.
everyone.
And then we have a Chef Clark. Camisha is
I
so
should.
open and positive, very inspiring.
Thank you.
Annette, Annetta Campbell Arpo, actually, she is my literature teacher from high school. I, Annette, I, Miss Campbell.
Nice. I
There's
love
a
it.
range of spectrum with some disability more noticeable than others. Yes, we did discuss that. Janice, lack of knowledge on the part of the staff, maybe ignorance at that time. The this out of disability is based on the awareness.
Ye-
Andrea Brown McNish, I'm so grateful for these platforms spreading awareness on these disabilities. Um, where did I go? Um, okay, and then we have, what is this? Puggy Diplomatic. Go, Camisha. Carmen Williams, respect every time. And then we have Janice again. Good evening, Nurse Carmen. Um, Cam Kerry cheering you on. Thomas Gordon, greetings. You are special people. That's my friend Thomas Gordon.
Yeah.
And the parents should be more involved with the goal of the IEP, says Annette Campbell Harper and Alison Beckford. Hi, Cam. It's Ali B. Okay, so
If
Absolutely.
I
anyway,
may, if I
yes,
may,
Gwen, please go
if I
ahead.
may, I
Mhm.
see. Hello to Miss Annette Campbell Harper. Yes,
Oh,
the parent should be involved with the goals of the IEP.
Definitely.
yes,
I agree with
And
that.
definitely.
let me
But
just put it out there that when
mhm,
we say this term IEP,
mhm,
the individual education plan is not
mhm,
something that a teacher can just sit and write by themselves. It's an
mhm,
IEP team. And a
mhm,
typical IEP team consists of the parents,
mhm,
and
It's
if
about
they
10.
can even bring in an advocate,
mhm,
there'll be, if needed, a speech language pathologist,
mhm,
Yes.
if needed, any therapist that's needed to be a part of it. So
Occupational
it could be an
therapist.
occupational therapist,
Yeah.
could
mhm,
be a physical therapist, could be somebody working with deaf or blind. So these are the people who get together and sit down and say, based on, and usually there's testing results available, there's an
Yes.
mhm.
evaluation
Right,
at some point, typically every
right.
3 years, that's done just to
Mhm,
make it recent.
mhm,
And those that would form the basis on which a lot of the IEP goals and
mhm,
objectives for that child is written. And parents have a big say
Definitely.
in that process. So
and
yes, Annette, they do get to weigh in on what their kids learn and are taught. And it lasts for a
Yeah.
year. It's
mhm,
legally
Yes.
binding for a year, but is
mhm.
also subject to changes
Evaluation.
along the
Okay,
way,
Changes, right.
okay.
especially if a child has made some great progress and we
Progress,
really need to
right.
sit down and come up with new goals and objectives,
Mhm.
Yes.
or if it's the other end of it and something is not going so well and we need to reconvene to address a matter. So
So it's
parents do
adaptable.
get to weigh in.
Okay.
Yeah, and
At
I
what
can testify to
age?
that.
Okay,
At,
thank you,
at what
Kamisha.
Yes.
at what age though does that change? Does that, at what age do they stop looking at that? Is it at age 18? Then, things change. What age does that continue onto?
Okay, so in the education system, and
Hmm.
a special ed child is in the system until they turn 22.
22.
Until age 22, you're in the education system. So they could be in high school until they turn 22. Um, I am more familiar with the level I've worked at, which is the elementary level. And I know that every 3 years they revisit the evaluation of the child. A reevaluation is done every 3 years. I don't know if that changes as they get older. That's something someone else could inform me on. But I know it to be every 3 years.
Okay. As when we started out, we spoke about special education, and this evening we're looking particularly on autism. But as I said, we are already making plans for next week, Monday evening, to extend this program to look at other areas of disabilities, the speech, the hearing, the sight, vision.
Yeah.
dwarfism, all the some of not all, but different areas of disabilities that and as I said before, when the program started, that a lot of these we don't even acknowledge as being a disability. I remember the first time that I came across a child. Okay, before I go, Wayne, can you tell the listening public what is the difference between a disability and handicap? Because especially Caribbean people, we love to use the word, oh, he's handicapped, he's an handicap. What is the difference?
Well, let me tell you, we don't push the word handicap anymore.
Mm-hmm,
Um, I think the way a disability encompasses a wide range of possibilities. We
mm-hmm,
have a disability is an autistic person, but there
mm-hmm,
could be someone who's not autistic with a learning disability in
mm-hmm.
math or a
Cognitive.
learning disability
Mm-hmm,
in reading.
mm-hmm,
So, and in terms of the word handicap, which
mm-hmm,
is we're advised not to use much, it
mm-hmm.
tends to refer to more of the physical manifestation of what a person presents with as their disability versus
Oh, so
the.
so
Yeah.
are you saying that what I learned in special education class then is not correct?
No,
Because I let
I
me tell you, let
it's
me tell you what I
modified.
learned. Let me tell you what I learned. I learned that the handicap
Yes,
is the lack of providing for a disabled person. Say you have a person in a wheelchair, but we
right.
don't have a ramp. We're
Mhm.
creating an handicap for that person's disability. So should I unlearn that and learn
No,
something new?
no, I'm
Because
I'm
that's what I learned when I did special education.
so your handicap in that
Mm-hmm,
context, your
mm-hmm.
handicap is your ability or inability to deal with the difficulty that comes
Right,
with your handicap. So let's
right.
say you had a deformed leg. Your
Mm-hmm,
challenge is going to be to walk.
mm-hmm,
As far as you being able to walk is concerned, you could be considered handicapped in terms of your ability to walk.
mm-hmm.
But because of the way, so from that perspective, no, you don't need to unlearn. I'm just saying the way in which a lot of people catch on to the word handicap,
Handicap. Mm-hmm.
yeah, is more of the physical manifestation, which is so much deeper to it,
Okay.
which we prefer to say disabled.
Okay, great. All right. So, Camisha,
Yeah.
listening to you, I see that these past 11 years has been so amazing. You have learned so much about autism, about life, about living with somebody, especially your own child, your own flesh and blood, that, you have learned so much. I know you now have a 5-year-old son. Were there
Mhm.
any fear during this pregnancy that you would be faced with another challenge?
Yes, there was actually I was paranoid. And especially because the statistic shows that boys tend to they're more susceptible to autism,
Mm-hmm.
right? So and finding out that I'm going to have a boy and so on, I was very afraid. I immediately enrolled for assistance once he was born, just to ensure that he was hitting all the milestones. Even though Vanisha, she was very fast,
Mm-hmm.
is up until the point where she was supposed to walk. I recognized that there was a regression in her progress. But
Mm-hmm.
Austin was moving very fast as well. He was walking by 9 months, and
Mm-hmm.
and at that point, I started to get really worried that I will have a second child now with autism. But
Go ahead.
yeah, but luckily for me, he is just fine and doing really, really well. But it was a fear of mine because even when you do your own research, you would recognize that they stated that persons who tend to have an autistic child will have a second one and so on. So It,
Okay.
it was a very scary time for me. I was fretting a lot, to be honest.
And
When
understandably so.
when usually is there a time frame in which a child um is diagnosed? Because we can see signs, but is there an age that they have to be at before it can be specific that you say yes, this child? Because like you, Wayne, although you have a master's and you're a behavioral technician, you cannot diagnose. Am I
No,
correct?
no.
Okay. So you have to make reference or referral to someone else. But
Doctor
at
referral.
at what age? How long do you watch a child for? When within the back of your mind you already know, you've seen all the signs, everything is there pointing that this child has a special need. What
I
is the age that child is really diagnosed?
Well, they're diagnosing them very early nowadays. As
Yeah.
a matter of fact, if you're taking your child on the routine, regular visits
Mm-hmm.
to their pediatrician,
Mm-hmm.
there are things in place now, processes in place that are literally able to screen. Just
Mm-hmm.
there's so much information available now that at 6 months, is your
Mm-hmm.
child doing everything they should be doing at 6 months, or
Mm-hmm.
is there a delay?
Yeah.
At 12 months, at 18 months, at all the milestone,
Mm-hmm.
there's a way for doctors now to just look at your child, see how they're doing, how they're progressing. If that pediatrician has any suspicion that there might be any disabilities or delays developmentally there, they can then tell that to the parent, and they take the next step, which is to get the right person to diagnose, do the testing, and do the diagnosis of autism. So you can find out from anywhere, I guess, between 6 to 18 months now.
Yeah.
Okay.
The information is there.
And I
Yeah.
think how important is it to you, Camisha,
Yeah.
to recommend to parents that they look out for signs? What kind of signs can you ask parents to look out for? As someone who has gone through this, from a very early stage, what can you say to parents at this point?
Okay, well, for me, I wish I knew that once you see the delay, that's actually a red flag. Because
Mhm.
again, Anisha was moving very swiftly, but when it was time for her to walk, she was just cruising.
Mhm.
And I didn't recognize that that was a red flag. And that led me to actually switch her pediatrician at that time, because I would have shared this, in terms of milestone, but that was not recognized at that point in time. Anisha was not pointing, as in she was not pointing any at all. She was not able to stare long in your face. She didn't like, but she still don't like taking pictures.
Mhm.
And she'll do things just routinely, and her tantrum would be extreme for certain things. And she would be fixated on a particular object. She would play with just the wheels of cars, just the
Mhm.
eyes of dolls. And I didn't recognize that those were signs, and for me, I didn't have enough information. So it's after the fact, after finding out that there is this word called autism, and this old old world out there with
Yeah.
persons, one in every 54 children, actually have this disorder. You recognize that there's a lot of information out there, but I just didn't know where to look. And those are the signs that I would ask parents to look out for. Just ensuring that your child is meeting the milestone, and if they're not meeting it, just to check it out. It won't hurt going to hopefully the right pediatrician that will direct you in the right direction. It won't hurt just raising these concerns with your pediatrician. But just keep your app, just watch out for the milestones. And there are specific things, I believe, even though it is a spectrum, it means that one person may actually just have this specific situation going on with them versus another. So it may not be unique. And my child may be very different from someone else's child. But I'm telling you, in terms of what I've identified looking back, is that she was not walking when she reached 1 year old. She actually walked at 18 months old.
Mhm.
And I didn't recognize any at all that this would have been, something that is leading to autism.
Yeah.
And just her playing pattern, because her playing pattern actually triggered me to go and Google, like, why is my child playing in all the way up? And it's like a specific, I remember specifically typing those words in Google just to identify what is going on with my daughter. And um, the information that we have now, we didn't have it back then. So just engage in those, especially if you're planning on having a child. Because I can tell you, when I got pregnant and so on, I'm thinking about what every other mother is thinking about, having that bundle of joy, experiencing certain things. And then once you recognize that your child is autistic, especially a man who is also hearing impaired, you recognize a certain experience, you have to tweak your expectations of those, because it changed, and it changes drastically. Because now you have to enter in their world. But if it's one thing that I have learned from Anisha, is how to love unconditionally, because unlike my son, who will love upon you and hug you if there's a particular emotion, you won't get that from Anisha. You won't get that from her. So it pulls you outside of yourself to do something bigger than yourself. Not just being a parent, but being a parent with a child that may not be able to express that emotion back to you. And everybody know, in a relationship, you expect that the other person will give you back, some sort of emotion, some sort of love. And, you just have to kind of change your mindset there and then. And that is one of the biggest things that Anisha has taught me. And even in terms of tolerance, I think now I'm very patient, very caring, and it all leads back to Anisha, very forgiving, very tolerant, because I understand that, especially for children with special needs, you need those qualities to actually pull out of you, to be everything that they would need in their life.
Right. And there are ways of testing even at home now. There's one popular one called the MChat, which is, someone could just look up MChat. I'm not able to go into much about it, but I know it's something you could do at home, and then you could share what you come up with the MChat with, say, your child's pediatrician, and they will be able to guide you from there. Yeah.
Okay, and I work as a newborn care specialist, aka a baby nurse, and so it is also very important that we keep an active log, because when you're able to compare what a child did yesterday, the developmental, the activities, that they do, then you realize that, okay, my child is 3 months, but I'm not seeing a smile. I'm not hearing a coo. I'm not seeing them roll. I'm not seeing, I'm with a parent now, and, we're talking about developmental delay, because, the child wasn't talking at a certain age. I remember when Anisha was with us, I remember some of the research was actually things that I would also go online and look up and share with you, and but I find that I've had parents who came to us at Kids Palace, Wayne, who migrated from another country because they were in denial that their child was autism, that was an autistic child. So she had that child. She would just take that child every term from one institution to another, to another, to another, right? All because she was in denial. I had another parent who the mother just would not, she wouldn't even come to the school. She wouldn't even take the child to the school because she was supposed to be, an high profile executive, and she could not associate with having a child with a disability. So it's like, and I can understand, a parent and the shock and the, disappointment, but whatever happens, the Bible says, can a mother tender care sees towards the child she bears? Because you remember, it's not like a dad who just feel that kick and that movement on the outside. As a mom, we feel all of that internally. We experience childbirth and all of that. So we just have to look beyond and to realize that, as I said, God gives special children to special parents. I honestly think so because it really takes someone special, as Camisha spoke a while ago about, the patience,
Mm.
unconditional, the ability to love unconditionally. I mean, those are all special. And I find that I've known parents with, special need kids who I've seen them made a 100% degree turn from aggression and anger and hurt and all of that to being so humble and so caring and just being, that special mom that our children need. So
The
going back to
the
And can I
if
tell you that the acceptance is so important because
right.
that's when you will take the first step in getting the help needed for your child.
right,
And I
it
guess that
is.
is the same for any type of sickness or any diagnosis. If
Mm-hmm.
you're not able to accept the diagnosis and to take the next step, you're putting your child at a disadvantage.
At risk too, not just at a disadvantage,
Risk,
at risk.
right?
You see,
So
it's really a challenging situation.
mm,
As Kamisha pointed out earlier, she had all the great expectations as an expecting mother
Mm-hmm.
for her
mhm,
child. And the whole process of acceptance is not easy. You don't just get to acceptance.
Yes.
Every process that is going to present something, especially if it comes with a lot of unknown, is going
mhm,
to bring its fair share of anxiety. And so that happens. And there's denial too.
mhm,
It's how quickly that person can get from, say, that denial phase to acceptance, and
mhm.
then being able to focus the energy not on themselves. Nothing is wrong with you. You are fine. But guess what? You need to wake up, accept this for that child, and then be that child's number one advocate. Because now you're not just mother or dad, you are a special needs child's
For sure.
parent.
Yeah.
You are an advocate. You're a champion for their cause. You're their eyes, ears, nose, voice. So not easy, but yes, very noticeable when a parent accepts. And you mentioned earlier about that parent that traveled, you know, from one location to the next.
Mhm,
In that denial stage, a lot can happen. I know of instances where parents have tried even cultural what you'd call it cultural what um actions, you know, like little um dances, rituals, that's the word I'm looking for.
mhm,
I've
mhm.
tried little rituals thinking it will, you know, make this autism go
Reverse,
away.
reverse what is
They've,
happening.
yeah, they've done things like feeding certain animals blood and milk, and so
What?
they've gone to extreme, and it depends on culture. But
Oh,
eventually they'll realize nothing is going to change that. And the best thing to do is get this person to fit into a normal life as
As
soon as
possible.
possible.
Possible. But Wayne, as you talk about that, I mean, we talk about autism being a neurological and whatever. Are there any, and you hit on something a while ago that you're talking about people looking, different means and different ways. Are there traumas that can happen like a child? Okay, so let me tell you. My husband had a friend back home in Jamaica. They were, working in the same job, and they had a baby just about the same time that we had our daughter. And at some point, the child was maybe a couple months, started to creep, walking, whatever. Parents were working parents, and they had a childcare provider, and that childcare provider dropped that child, Wayne, and she didn't tell the parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
And over the weekend, she was gone. They said they noticed that like her eyes, started, becoming certain how, and, she wasn't as active or anything like that. But, us in Jamaica, we're not as proactive as we should be. And the helper just did not turn back up on Monday for work. And I don't remember all of the stories surrounding it. I think they got somebody else, and then they realized that the child development were going backwards now instead of advancing. She was no longer creeping. No, by the time they got her to the doctor and did it, she had a brain damage.
Ooh,
wow.
yeah. Mm.
Yeah. So I mean, Caregivers out there, I'm speaking to you especially. I'm speaking to parents especially, that we need to take special care if we decide that this is what we want to do, that we want to give assistance to parents. Let us try as best as possible to treat the children that we are taking care of the way how we want our children. Hopefully that we want our children to be treated good. And so we try to treat other people's children just as good. And accidents can and do happen. But
Yeah.
when accidents happen, please accept accountability. Call 911, call the parents, let them know the child just had a fall. I have to rush the child to the doctor. In Jamaica, we think that a fall is just a fall and we don't really take it in the priority or give it the necessary importance that we should. But I'm just speaking to persons listening. You know somebody with a child, make sure emphasize to them that if they have to get a caregiver, that they emphasize all of these things to them. Now is days of modern technology. Nothing is wrong. I find nothing wrong with, putting cameras in your house, just watching what is happening. Your child is your most important asset. And I say asset not in terms of your child is not a property, but it's the most important personal thing that will
Gift.
ever come into your life. You
Yeah.
know, that's a one in a lifetime opportunity to be a parent. Um, Wayne,
Accountability is very important,
yeah.
especially
Very.
as you say, caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
That very form that I send home to with my students every day, at
Mm-hmm.
the very top of it is when they arrived, were there any scratches, bruises, obvious
Mm-hmm.
marks?
Yeah.
So it goes both ways. If they show up at school and look like they got a beating from a frustrated parent, I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
note that. We're gonna do the next thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, things happen during the day. Kids are kids. There's stuff
Mm-hmm.
that's gonna happen. I hate when I get to that line where I have to circle yes. I like to just circle no for bruises
Mm-hmm.
or or scratches or anything going home. But when that does happen, it is on us as professionals to do communicate openly and honestly, explaining what happened, but letting the parent know it happened versus being, because I'll tell you, it is as weird as this. A child might barely bump their head, but you don't know what the impact could be
Yes,
inside. And let's
exactly.
say at home at 11:30 at night, they end up in a seizure or something.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what triggered it. At least if the parent had read that that child had hit their head, and if
Mm-hmm.
they're at the emergency room, they can say, you know what, the teacher said she hit her head. It could be
Yeah.
that will in itself guide
Right.
how quickly or help how quickly that child can be
Can get
treated
the
in a proper and
attention.
positive way. So
Right.
yes, accountability is important and it only helps, but it has to be consistent, truthful, and both parties need to understand this is communication. We can't start getting at each other,
Yeah.
but
Mm-hmm.
understand that we're trying our best to do this for the individual that's
The
has a
most important
disability.
person is the child.
Right.
When I go into families, I say to them that, look, I am here not for me, not for you. I am here for the baby, and that is the middle person between us. My priority is the baby. I have a passion for kids. I'm a mother of two, and I want what is best for them. Hopefully, I'm hoping to be a grandmother. I don't know. I'm trying to beg a grandchild. So, as you hear in my voice, so so I mean, but all of my friends, my age group, most of them have two, three grandbabies, and I don't have any. I just have to be borrowing on people's grandchildren, which is
But
not
maybe
very
that's your purpose right now, to borrow and be a grandma to those that need the grandma support. So,
Yeah, but
hey,
at the same time, Wayne, I can't wait until arthritis take up my hand
oh,
and
you'll
my
be all right.
and all of
You'll be
that.
just fine.
But
You'll do all things through Christ who
Wayne,
strengthens you. Yeah.
I have a very impressive profile on you here. But
Okay.
for me to read all of this,
Please don't.
now I want
Go.
you now to take over. I want you to
Uh,
tell me all about the rest of this in your words. Who
Okay.
is Wayne All going forward from here?
Oh my
Just
goodness. So it started out with me, little Wayne from Yorton, St. Catherine in
mm-hmm,
Jamaica. Yorton Primary School, went to Charlemont High School.
mm-hmm,
From Charlemont High School, I then went to, um, I attended the GC Foster College. So
mm-hmm.
I am a PE teacher first. I went to the School of Physical Education and Sport. And then,
So you know something, Wayne?
mhm,
Because I know that with GC Foster, a lot of emphasis is placed on hurt, sportsmen hurt, and these are some of the areas that we look at the brain, the damages. So that has been embedded in you from an early stage. So continue, please.
right. Now, you mentioned that you read already where I was a valedictorian twice at high school and at college. I really like to get into reading and listening a lot of, like, this kind of show would be the kind of thing I would listen, and I would actually try to make notes even as a little fellow. And so I love just seeking out information. I would listen to the radio shows that focused on the interviews with the politicians and the doctors, and sometimes I don't even know what they're saying with all their loaded words. So I
Mm-hmm.
always had a curiosity for knowledge. So when I went to GC Foster College, I was blessed to, I was student council vice president and president in my last 2 years. And I also won the Carlton Finance Merchant Bank Award for being the teacher of the year in Jamaica that year, which they looked at our scores in all the teachers' colleges in the core subjects. And the person with the highest grades gets that award. And so I'm very proud of that award until this day.
Wow.
And then I taught for a few years. I'd met my wife at what? She was 9 years old when I first saw her, and I was 12. And so we had reconnected during all this. And then I got married. I moved to New York. And that's where I did a bachelor's in business. Funny story. I wanted to do I wanted to do physical therapy. So I
Mm-hmm.
started looking into it. It's called physiotherapy in Jamaica. And
Mm-hmm.
so I tried to get into that in New York, finished a year, had a 4.0, but was told I couldn't get into the clinical phase because I had to be on a waiting list for 2 years. I used those 2 years to complete a bachelor's degree in business, and then worked in business for years. Always loved radio. So
Mm-hmm.
after about 10 years in New York, I needed warmer climes, man. It was too much of a shoveling snow during the winter and just too locked in. So we
Mm-hmm.
moved to, to to Georgia, and I went into the broadcast school and formalized something I'd been doing for a while, because I actually worked a lot in that capacity in Jamaica as well. But I did the formal training here in Atlanta, and so I launched the Win All Show. Um, when my dad died about 8 years ago, I traveled back to Jamaica to take care of the arrangements to get lay him to rest, and had a very interesting experience. All the little problems you can have with burying somebody in Jamaica just kept coming at me. And I would call my wife every night and we would crack up over it, even though it was serious stuff. I would be so mad when it's
Mm-hmm.
happening. But by the time I got to her, we talk, looking back at it. So I wrote a little book called I'm Dead Now What? And I have to tell you, the title was inspired not just by my wife suggesting it, but by something that happened when I was trying to lay my dad to rest. At
Mm-hmm.
the registrar for birth and deaths, I presented everything I should, and
Mm-hmm.
then they prepared the death certificate for my dad, handed it to me. I guess the teacher in me decided to look it over. And as I'm looking it over, I was listed as the deceased. I'm dead. Know what? So, other than the frustration and my being upset at them for being inept at what they do,
Mm-hmm.
another young man walked in right away and started screaming, "Oh my gosh, I went to get something done and I can't because it's not my father's name on the death." I say, you see, if he didn't read his, or he
Mm-hmm.
might not even have been the one that looked about it. And look at the
Mhm.
problem now. They're telling him all these legal procedures he's got to go through to change the name. I said, you
Mhm.
just presented me with mine wrong.
Mhm.
And I had to point out, which is goes back to our side as caregivers in what we do. They're grieving. I'm grieving. I should be able to depend on you to do a service accurately, not list me as the dead person if you're doing your job right. And that's what they did. And so I wrote a little book. So I'm also an author, thanks to that
Mhm.
little book,
Mhm.
with big information, though, about how you can navigate some of the challenges of laying someone to rest in Jamaica. And then, I segued out of corporate world into the classroom where I've been for the last 7 years and loving it. So that's my life in a nutshell. Radio host, talked about teaching, business, the book. That's it. I try
And
to.
what about some of the awards that you have been getting, like in your community? You want to tell us about those?
Yes, I've had a few. In fact, in 2014, I won the Linkage Awards in New
Mhm.
York for Radio DJ of the Year, the Wayne Hall Show. I received an award of recognition for community service from the Caribbean Association of Georgia a couple of years ago, and a proclamation
Mhm.
from in Georgia, the capital, a couple of years ago. Yes, so for community service in my Caribbean community. So, yep.
Okay. And in addition to all of those lovely things, Wayne is also an excellent MC for events.
Yes,
Um,
yes, yes.
and as he said, he is a radio DJ. Um, he has been featured in the Vogue Atlanta magazine twice in May of 2018 and again in May of 2020,
Yes,
and was
yes.
also recognized for his contribution to media in the Caribbean community by the Caribbean Association of Georgia in June of 2018.
Right.
Wayne all landed the big interview on the British Broadcasting Corporation,
Oh yeah. Yes.
BBC,
Yes, yes,
in
yes. See,
November
I
of
can't remember all
2018.
that stuff.
He
That's
was
why it's written.
invited after Jamaica's reggae music was accepted by UNESCO. But I also saw another interesting piece about your some show or the other that you were on with Beanie Man.
Oh,
Um, so you see, he's skipping over. There's so much information
it's a
here.
lot. I'm,
Yes.
I'm trying not to
So,
just read it back, but
he has been involved in the Grace Atlanta Jerk Fest, the Atlanta Montego Bay Sister Cities event at City Hall, the
mhm,
launch of Caribbean American Heritage Month, and
as
a
MC, yeah,
host of the Atlanta Blessed Gospel Show.
yes.
So I am indeed honored to have you here this evening with me, Mr. All. I know you told me you were going to give me 1 hour. We are already 1 hour and 22 minutes.
Wow.
Kamisha, any last word from you going forward? What are your plans? Do you also plan? Because with all that, your experience and with all that you do, I think you are an excellent person to write a book on parents of autistic children. And myself, as you know, I'm also an author. I also write. I'm here to give you any kind of help, advice, that I can, and to push you to doing that because I really think that people are out there who need that information. And we always say, what better person to give it than coming directly from the horse's mouth? So I'm not calling you an horse now, Kimisha.
I know
Don't
that's
leave the
it. I
program and
understand.
say,
I'm a
Auntie Marcia
Jamaican.
called me. Auntie Marcia called me
I'm
and
a
said to not leave
full-blown
you on our
Jamaican.
program. But also viewers,
Who shall call her?
but, but also viewers, before you go, I want to remind you that come Wednesday night, we are back to our regular show because our CS Bite and a Mouthful is really a Wednesday evening program that we look at, just special topics. I try as best as possible to make the topics very interesting, very involved, and things of interest. I try at the end, when you leave our program, we want you to leave inspired and more educated than you came. And I hope that I have been able to do so, along with, the panelists that I have. So I do ask you to join me on Wednesday evening, that I will be talking about the expectation of pastors' children. Are they real or unreal? Are they realistic or unrealistic? So we're going to be looking at the past and picking them come this Wednesday evening. But also come next week, Monday evening, because, as we say, special needs is really special needs. And so I am putting in just these Monday evening shows just for these special needs, just to talk about them. And so next week, Wednesday evening, we're going to continue into a second phase of this program. I don't know if Wayne can join me. He might not want to give me another Monday evening. But if he can, I do look forward to having him, joining us, just so that we can expand on what, are some of the other areas of special needs. Camisha, I give you
Yes.
the floor to give us your last words.
Okay, well, I think some of my friends kind of set you up to the writing book story, because especially Tiffany, she has told me that a lot, that I should write a book
Yes, you should.
about my life. But my final word would be mainly to the parents, other than the fact that, yes, watch out for the milestone. I would say just to be kind to yourself. It's going to be rough, it's going to be challenging, and you're going to need to recharge, and you might blame yourself, but just be kind to yourself, because I know personally that it's a rough journey, and you'll place a lot of the, by my child, the blame on yourself. You look back through your pregnancy, what did I do wrong if I didn't take my vitamins and so on. But my final word would just to be kind to yourself, because it's a rough road, and surround yourself with positivity, because luckily for me, I had friends who would fast and pray with me, who would take me out of my lunchtime just to pray and read and just help me mentally just to go through it, so, and that
Yeah.
is very important, your support system, having somebody there for you. And just find it, if you don't have it in your family. Luckily for me, I do. But if you don't have it in your family, just find probably that one friend that you can rely on to receive some positive words, because it can take you far away.
Awesome. You said something very important there, and that is that be kind to yourself. And I can relate to that, because I have had several miscarriages, and I even had a pregnancy that I got to 35 weeks and the baby had died within me. And that was like a very hard blow for me. And for 2 years, I blamed myself every day. What did I do wrong? What could I have done otherwise? And then at the end of 2 years, it's like I closed the chapter. I just shut down. I wouldn't remember birthday. Her birthday was like December 2. When it reached to the ending of November, it's like I was in another phase totally, because I just did not want to remember that time. I look back over each stage of my pregnancy, each day. What did I do wrong? What did I not do? And you blame yourself. So that's very, very important. And as you said, the support system is awesome. And I've never met your mom, I've never met your grandmother, but from what I know of them, I can't help but applaud them. I also know that you had a great support system at work, and
Yes,
yeah,
definitely. I
so
have
definitely.
awesome bosses,
So,
from First Global to Surgical. I can tell I had really great understanding managers who would allow me the time to go and do what I needed to do, or for pick up or whatever it is. I remember even at First Global at one point, when Anisha was going to the JAD, I didn't have any aftercare for her as yet. And he was like, well, she can stay in my office. That's
mhm.
all. God has just placed wonderful people in my life,
Yeah.
understanding people, and
Yeah,
something that I'm forever grateful for.
And it says that it takes a village to raise a child, and
Definitely. Without
especially
my
a
village.
and especially a special child with a special mom as you are, Camisha. You are just blessed. Wayne,
Thank you.
are there any last words that you want to leave with us?
Yes, couple things. I want to thank you, Marcia, for inviting me to your platform to share a little
Hmm.
bit of about what we do,
Hmm.
and
And you're welcome.
also, you know, I would like to say continue to do that because awareness is never too much, and that,
Hmm.
especially with disabilities.
Right.
Uh, Shout out to Camisha, man. Just listening to her as a
Big
parent,
up.
you
Yes.
know, we say big up.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
All right.
And thank you for
Um,
allowing me to share as well, because I know the information is key, because I didn't have that back then. And I know this may
yes,
help someone.
I want to shout out some familiar folks that have tuned in
Mm-hmm.
and are sharing the love on
Mm-hmm.
Facebook, so they know who they are. All right. All right. Thank you all for tuning in and sharing this great message this evening. And I want
Mm-hmm.
to make an announcement that is going to happen for the first time because I don't often get to be a guest. But in my quest, in my quest to help this journey, along this autism journey, I've
Mm-hmm.
taken the time to prepare what I think will be a very great tool for parents.
Mm-hmm.
It's a presentation called Autism Parent Empowerment,
Mm-hmm.
A APE, which
Yeah.
in special needs world is actually how we describe adaptive physical education,
Mm-hmm.
APE. But it's it's Autism Parent Empowerment, which I've prepared a presentation that I think will help, based on what I've seen in my experience,
Mm-hmm.
will help parents get a grip of understanding their child, their autistic, even if it's not their child, but just understanding autism in others, and also know that there are resources out there and where they can go and how they can use these resources. So that's my next quest, and it's going to be launched before this week is over,
Okay.
and I'll have more information on my platform about that
You
later in
can
the
share
week.
it right here, Wayne.
And
Don't be
they can
careful.
Definitely.
You
follow
share
me.
it with us. Share it with
Okay.
us.
So
Please.
the wayneallshow.com, ladies and
Mm-hmm.
gentlemen, I have my own radio show, which is
Right.
once a week, 8 to 10 on Wednesdays.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, this Wednesday night, I'm gonna have an ABA therapist on, as well as a parent of an autistic child who has
Mm-hmm.
gone on and done some great things, receiving
Mm-hmm.
even a proclamation from the city where he lives. So
Mm-hmm.
they're going to
Wow.
be my guest this Wednesday as we continue to,
As
shed
we close
awareness.
off Autism
Yeah.
Awareness Month.
And
Right.
so, folks, you can follow me at Wayne Hall Show on Facebook and Twitter, Wayne Hall Show on Instagram, the WayneHallShow.com, and you can download my app. It's LTU, Listen to Us Media,
Mm-hmm.
LTU Media, and you can listen to my 24-hour streaming of music and other shows. So that's about it. But I just want to say thank you. Thanks for everyone who tuned in. And I appreciate you putting me in the hot seat instead of being the one in the not
You
so
know,
hot seat.
Wayne, I was talking to somebody today, and she was like, I mean, this is my show. Just actually, I had my first show on March 24th. So this is like my fifth show that I'm going into this week. And somebody called me today, and she was like, "Are you sure you really just started?" And actually, although Wayne and I are from neighboring communities back home in Jamaica, it's funny because we met via um, the Rosemont Alumni Association, of which I'm a part of it. And we were having an event, and someone recommended, another fellow Charlie Mount alumni with Wayne recommended that we, you know, um, streamed live by his program. That did not work out. However, we met. We spoke when I, was doing my book, and, I was on his show. And it's funny, ironically, that we now come to realize that we have so many mutual friends, So life, as I say, it's about association. And as I say weekly, and I continue to say, that people comes into our lives for reason, season, purposes, and time. And so, Camisha, you came into Kids Palace life, into my life, by extension, Kids Palace, and all of us who were there at the time, along with Anisha. And who knows that, after all these years, that you would end up being on this program with us this evening. Wayne, it's been a pleasure to have you. Camisha, it's been such a pleasure.
Thank
I
you.
just and I pray that we were able to bring some measure of enlightenment to our listeners and to all the others: Andrea Brown McNeish, Michelle Robbins, Janice, Carmen, who's this? Akmir Thompson, Carmen Scott Dixon, Janice, just all the other persons that we mentioned before, Annette, everyone. We just want to thank you so much this evening for joining
Yes.
us. We have
Yeah,
come to
thank
the
you
end
for my
of our
support.
broadcast. Anisha, Wayne, if you could just hang on, I'm just going to end the broadcast, and then, we can just chit chat for a second. So, Facebook land, YouTube land, thank you so much once again for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Thank you
See
for
you on
everyone who
Monday.
supported this.
See you on Monday for part 2 of our taking the dis out of the disability and enhancing abilities instead. Thank you once again. Have a blessed evening and